Honnan tudnám? Hi, Alexandra. So far we are 2 in the ethics.
Yeah, I think there's about 5 others, but I don't think they've hopped on camera yet.
All right, so maybe we can ask people to join with the camera because more room. Okay, so I'd like to ask everyone to switch on the camera because we are only few people, so it's better to see each other. And maybe we start with the small tour de table to know who is who. Would it work for all of you, I hope? Very nice cat.
Thank you, yeah. He's been here all the past couple of days enjoying the conference.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I have also, I have many cats, but one is sitting all the time in the office, so he's the director of the company. At this moment is out. So are we only 3 here, or do we have Holly, Lawrence? Maybe we start with the introduction. Yeah. So Alexandra, you were first. Maybe you go first.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm a research data specialist at the University of Melbourne, and I work on a team called the Data Analytics Platform, and we work with Indigenous data in some select projects. And I was really interested in, just towards the end of the session we just had, talking about sensitive data. Shout out to the session, like 2 sessions from now, which is the sensitive data interest group. But we are thinking very deeply about things that have been covered today. So that's who I am.
Mm-hmm. So Chris, I can see that.
Yeah, morning everyone. So Chris Emerson, work at Newcastle University as a research data manager. So at Newcastle University we try and map on quite closely to the Sustainable Development Goals. So there's a lot of research globally. So I'm particularly keen to see how I can support the researchers on the FAIR principles, but also now the CARE principles in terms of not doing the kind of colonialism, just taking all the data out, but working in collaboration. So keen to learn, and particularly on the ethics side of things, which might be a bit of a quick win on this area.
Okay. So I see Holly. Maybe Holly, you are then the next to introduce.
Yeah, morning everyone. It's still early in the UK for me anyway, so I had to just take off my dressing gown. Anyway, I'm the Research Data Management Officer at the University of Westminster, and I also sit on the Ethics Board at Westminster as well. Thinking very much about how we can embed CARE principles in the ethics process, so as part of a criteria by which we might review a proposal for a research project. And also because we're in the process of building a digital repository for research data as well. So how can we think about that? And especially in the UK, Natalie in Ireland mentioned in the UK context as well as overseas research, where we might want to think about the CARE principles. We also have work with the Gypsy Roma traveller community in the UK as well, where the CARE principles would come in as well.
Okay. I see other people without the camera. So Linda, Lawrence, Joy. Yeah, please feel free. Yeah, we decided to a small tour the tab. So just say a few words who you are, why are you interested to this ethic part. Anyone wish to speak? Or maybe you can write it to the chat, yeah, if you do not wish to show up, yeah. So just maybe repeat that I'm in the RDA Council. I'm not a data specialist. I'm a former politician, MEP, member of the European Parliament for 10 years, and this is how I started to work on data and on the data issues and in the RDA. And of course, my interest is more policy policy making regarding around the data than anything else. But I love to work in the Fair Data Maturity Working Group as a chair, and it was really a joy to work with the care people. So I feel now very reasonable about it, and I'm in the SDG interest group. So I think that it's important that we take it forward. But I'd like to get the discussion with you around these three principles within the care principle, which I feel on one side very nice, on the other side still very generic and very abstract. So it will be very difficult to apply to the institutions without further clarification or further breakdown to concrete action and concrete policies with the KPIs, with the measurements. Yeah, that in that form it's very difficult to use and reinforce and enforce the application of it. Maybe when we discuss the ethics, for me, one of the main issue is that, which Shelley, by the way, said that the repositories are responsible for the community. But is it really true? In my view, there are researchers now moving around the world. So who is your community? The community who is directly served, or the global community who is visiting from anywhere to pick up the data? And I think that it makes a big difference that how you define the community. So I just wanted to give these ideas out. We didn't decide how go concretely with the issues, but I think that what Holly said about the ethical the ethical papers, ethical rules of the institutions, this can be one way that how we can include care to those ethical papers, or we can go from the 3 points to discuss that how we can make them more concrete. So it's up to you. I'm waiting for your ideas that how you wish to go through the process.
Well, I guess I could just say that I agree with you. I think it's the concrete actions that we kind of need to focus on. And, you know, I really see that repositories have a role to play in informing data reuse in an ethical way and making sure that the care principles are reflected back in that angle. But so much of it really depends on researchers being aware of what they're collecting and how they're intending to use data in the first place. So I think we really need to get this all joined up throughout the life cycle. To come back to your point about policy, certainly I think, yes, funders and people who support research to take place, whether it's, you know, funders or even institutions, we have lots of processes in place. So we've got ethics reviews and all sorts of things that people have to do as standard activity when you're planning new research. So I just think we need to review those, see where we can really kind of expand them out to maybe include care where it makes sense. I'm not, you know, wherever we can embed this into existing processes would be better than trying to make it a separate new thing that people feel is completely disjoined from everything else. So I think there's an action on all of us to kind of look at what we're doing already and where we can start to draw in the care principles and really to just get this started to be in the radar from the very outset of research.
Thank you. Thank you. So I just summarized because the notes, so not only reuse, but also the use over the life cycle, and yeah, to the ethical reviews, ethical rules for the existing ones, and to think of the new ones on that way. Yeah, just a summary. So maybe we if you do not mind, maybe we can go through the 3 principles. Yeah, one is for minimizing the harm and maximizing the benefit. The second one for justice. Yeah, that do they deserve the recognition? Do they deserve some reimbursement? What does it mean for justice? And for the future use, which is very much about the data immediate use and for the longer time archives and so on and so forth. So yeah, maybe let's discuss by one after one. Yeah. So can we start with the minimizing harm and maximizing benefit? Any ideas around this? That how you understand that sentence? And maybe, you know, my idea was to start, is it a policy issue or is it a technical issue which we have to think about that principle, or both?
So both.
Both, okay?
Yeah, because I suppose it comes in at all, like Joy was saying, it's every aspect of the research data lifecycle, because you need to think about the purpose of the research, which is a methodological question, like what is the purpose of the research in terms of maximizing benefit for whom, through to sharing the data, who is going to benefit from the sharing of the data, if that's what you want to achieve.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And I think, you know, going back to, we had IDCC, I'm not sure how many people were at that just before the RDA plenary, but we had a keynote, and the keynote really kind of drew us to thinking about ownership of data and cultural, you know, there was a lot of questions about this. And I think, you know, at the early stages, when you're thinking about who benefits and how they benefit, you have to think who's also, the harm question kind of comes into that as well. So if you are benefiting somebody, are you indirectly harming somebody else? So a lot of this stuff I really think isn't something you're naturally predisposed to thinking about. You know, if you're going through your standards ethics process, a lot of these things maybe don't jump into your thought process. So I think it's just really trying to make people aware and to try and think of things in a different perspective than they're used to, and that's difficult to do. So I think if that is going to be something that happens, we would need to really engage with the ethics review board processes and make sure the people who run those are aware of this and understand the right kinds of questions to ask and how to support it.
I like that one that you said that do I understand it well? I just asked because the notes that it's easy when you know what is your it's easy when you know that whom you are doing that, but you don't necessarily know all the communities you might harm or benefits at the very beginning without the good planning. Yeah, that's what you said.
I think the data management planning is the logical place to start to think about some of these things, because we already, you know, ask people what kind of stuff will you collect and how are you going to do it? Are there any ethical things that you have to think about? So there's already kind of the high level questions that people need to think about. I think maybe just for specific kinds of research, we need to flesh those out into better questions that sort of get people thinking a little bit more deeply about, you know, is there a potential harm if I do something in a different way? So I think it's just maximizing things that we're already using and just using them a little bit more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think in addition to that, the challenge around the kind of a DMP and ethics is that ethics is quite often at the start of the project and you get it once and you may not have thought it through. Whereas DMP, the idea is you constantly update it, so as the project develops and the kind of start collecting data, you can reflect on it more. So there's kind of the balance of where do you pick these up, and then once ethics has been obtained, then how do you? It's very difficult, or researchers are very not that keen to actually get ethics again if they've had a chance to review. So it's important we get that lined up nice and early in the project.
Do you think that it would be helpful to have more ethical reviews during the so that it's not necessary. If you have a good DMP, you can put the ethical review several times into it, or maybe it's not only it has to be done once in the beginning. Yeah, it has to be a continuous process following the DMP. No,
it would make sense for certain projects.
Yeah,
certainly.
I would agree. I think I wouldn't say as a blanket statement every time you update your DMP you should have another ethical review. I think the resources would be difficult to to make that happen, but I do think that if you are, as you go along, flagging up that you are a project that would benefit from periodic ethical reviews, I think that should definitely be an option.
Okay, maybe I could. Yeah,
yeah, and Yeah, like Chris said, that's a really good point, because often the ethics is a one-off, whereas the DMP can become a space where, okay, now it's time to share my data, and then let's just remind ourselves that we're working towards these principles. And yeah.
Oh, by the way, I forgot something very important. We have to report back to the room, and you all speak better English than me. You all know better the subject than me. So any volunteer who wish to report back to the group? I make my notes to the document, so you can use the document. Anybody?
Yeah, I don't
volunteer?
mind. I don't mind doing it.
Great, wonderful. Yeah, because I don't like when the chair speak and the other people are listeners. You have better ideas, yeah. So you have to speak. Chris, you have got the task.
I don't think I've got better English than you, but
okay, but yeah. I make notes. Yeah, I make notes in the implementing the care principle document, so you can use it.
Yeah, I'm happy to report back.
Wonderful. Okay, anything else on this minimizing, maximizing benefits? I think that one of the, what I made the notes for whom intended, unintended harms through the life cycle, and DMP requires the periodic ethical review. So I think the DMP is just a wonderful opportunity for that. Anything else to the point one, or shall we go to the next point? We have got, only 2 minutes, yeah, to discuss a bit the justice maybe, or the future use. You can choose.
I think future use is such a complex topic. Obviously, for justice is very important. But in terms of future use, like projecting what data you may collect, what it could be used for in future, who has access to it, how even research outputs can be interpreted or used by other scholars, so maybe not even the data itself. Maybe back to DMPs then, if we get into that in part.
Yeah, I'm not sure how DMPs are dealing with the very long-term archive, yeah, because we are talking about maybe in century time someone wish to use.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah, I think I was at a session yesterday, and I'll need to dig out the title and all the speakers' information, but they were showing nice tags that they had at the repository level. And these were machine readable things that I think could be displayed, and they very much kind of reflected some of the things that are in the care principles. And those kind of things, I think, are the sort of things we want to see attached to data when they go to a repository and helping to inform reuse. So I'll try to dig that out and add it to the notes.
Yeah, it's the TK labels, the traditional knowledge labels.
That's
so that could easily be a criteria in a repository, the ability to attach TK labels in.
It's called traditional
knowledge labels.
Okay.
And they become part of the metadata.
Okay, but the future use requires a very good repositories with the very, very good metadata, just for my note. Good. I put also to the notes that we discussed the SDGs, maybe as maybe it's a very much ethical issue that the care principles about the ethic, as well the SDGs in many ways are, so interconnect the two probably could be a good part of ethics. Anything else for the justice or for the future use?
Well, I was just going to say quickly, today I had a meeting with some researchers at Melbourne Uni, and one of the things we discussed in terms of future use or past data collection, maybe from decades ago, is the way in which Indigenous communities might engage with that themselves. So perhaps, so today we were talking about research data that had been collected in 1910, 1920s and 60s and 70s, and how present day Indigenous communities sometimes might choose to step away from it for various reasons, just as they might choose and want to engage with it in the present day.
Mm-hmm.
Which I hadn't thought about before, but I thought was very interesting.
No, I agree. Mm-hmm. And maybe before we go back in 1 minute, we have to go back for justice and for future use. What do you think? Is it policy, technical, or both?
Both.
Everything is both. Okay.
Everything's both. Yeah.
Yeah, fine. It's good to know. I think that now it's absolutely the time to go back, and then I will ask Chris to introduce the thing. If you wish to use the notes, I can share the notes. Yeah, so then you can see them. I hope that everyone can see that.
Yeah.
So thanks very much for being with me, and then we go back to help Chris to introduce the ideas. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I think if everybody just clicks the exit, you should go back to the breakout room.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, I'm not sure that how we go back, but back to join meeting. Yeah,
just click the exit and it'll take you back.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.